Okay guys, so I wanted to follow up on my video from last week to show you how you can take a Dynamesh model or basically in this case, this was a 3D scan of a wolf skull. It's got the jaw here as well, but I'm just going to work on the cranium area this time. And retopologize this thing so that it can be brought down to a lower number of points and all quads and have the topology look better. This is I Dynamesh this so you can see it's pretty messy, and you'll see with Dynamesh you get this kind of weird, kind of like a wrinkled screen door look to it, where things connect and you can just get some funky stuff. It has, all absolutely some incredible uses. So for instance, when you're Dynameshing things, you can just take all these weird liberties with it. Like, I can just, grab this hunk of bone here and, push it into this hunk of bone. Move this one up on top of it, just kind of push them together like that. This sort of thing. And that's going to look really bad if I turn on frame here. You can see that, but if I just keep moving these guys together a little bit, pushing this around. Again, I'll bring this up a bit so I can just kind of peel this off a bit more like that. And then if I re-Dynamesh that, it's literally going to join these things together. I didn't quite catch them all here, but if I get down to a smaller size here and push this inside of this, get these guys together like that, and then Dynamesh it again, it's going to just start to push those guys on top of each other. You can kind of see here. Then I could go in and kind of smooth this, and you see those are now, there's no seam there where those two are overlapping. They can just sit together as one thing. So again, Dynamesh has some just amazing uses, and that you definitely want to use it early on in your sculpting so that you can do stuff like this, because otherwise it's just really hard to get this kind of an effect. I'm just going to undo that because I don't really know what I was doing there in terms of putting that in the right place or anything like that. Just kind of to show you again, or remind you that that's what Dynamesh is really great for. I'm going to bump this back up, make sure I'm still in Dynamesh. Yeah, I am. Okay, so what I want to do here is I want to take this guy and I want to reduce it so it doesn't have as many polygons, but I also want to retopologize it so that the polygons that it does have when I'm done with this flow nicely, okay? And that is in direct contrast to this, where there is literally no flow. This is just almost like it was put inside a cube of tiny little polygons, and where these things hit, that's the part of it assumed. So when you retopologize something, almost by definition, you're going to lose detail. So the second step of this is then, once you retopologize it, how do you get this detail back onto the retopologized model with a lower number of polygons, or so that you can then take that into Maya or some other program and use a displacement map to essentially recreate the look of the high detail with a low res model. Okay, so that's kind of where we're heading with this. So the first thing I want to do is I want this detailed model, preserved, because I'm going to need that to get that detail back onto the remesh model. So I'm going to duplicate this. So I'm in my subtools here. I'm just going to duplicate that and then turn it off. Turn this guy back on like this, and then I'm going to use ZRemesher, which is under geometry. I'm just going to turn Dynamesh off here. I don't really need that on at the moment. It still looks like that. No worries there. Okay, and I am going to go to ZRemesher right here, pink, like so. And there's a bunch of settings here. The big one you're going to look at here is this target polygons count. So if I've got 500,000 polys here, I'm just going to shoot for like, 20,000. And this is in thousands, okay, so 20. It's going to try to get it to 20,000. If I have adaptive here, it's gonna aim at 20, but it's not a fixed thing. It's not exact. And what you can do if you end up with something like 30 or 40 with a clean model, you can then redo it again and bring it down even lower. But initially it's going to try and preserve, these shapes. So there are places where it's just simply going to have to put more polygons than it might otherwise. Okay. So I'm going to turn this stuff to 20. Okay, 20,000. Not going to worry about any of this other stuff. This is mainly for harder edge models. Adaptive size, curve strength. If you have something where you wanted to make sure the topology follows a particular line, you can draw a curve and turn this on. At least as I recall, I think that's it. I'm just going to leave them at the default here. The main one I'm looking at is this. I'm just going to click this remesher, and this will take a couple minutes. So I'll just pause this for you so you don't have to sit and wait. So hold on. Okay, so that took about a minute and a half, not as much as I thought. And you can kind of see here is, let me turn this on. There is our remeshed model. And this just gives me chills. This is so beautifully done. I don't know what kind of algorithm they developed, but man, it is amazing. The flow of this thing is just beautiful. They just do an amazing job. Evaluating it, looking at the curves, pointing them in the right direction, and keeping everything flowing in the right direction. This typically is a manual process if you do it in other programs. And of course, you could then take this in and redo it manually in some other program as well, and you'd have a much easier time just because the flow is already there for you. But it's just really quite lovely. Okay, so you've got this, and this is why I had a separate subtool here. Okay, so I've now got this one, and then I've still got this one. And if I overlay the two, you can see the shapes and stuff are perfection. What is missing though in this guy is the detail. Okay, so we need to get the detail from this onto this. Okay, how do you do that? Okay, so what you do, you turn these both on like this. I'm going to go back to my main one here. It's at 34,000 polys. Okay, from 500,000 to this, that's pretty freaking great. Turn this off again for a sec. So the first thing I want to do is I need to get enough or generate enough polygons here so that it can accept the detail from the high-res Dynamesh thing down here. Okay, and again, the reason I want to do this, why I wouldn't just take the high-res Dynamesh one into some other program, is number one, it has a ton of polygons. Okay, and what I would like to do then is use this low-res version to actually have a perhaps put in a displacement map or a normal map or something like that on it in the other program, so that I could see this high-res detail without having the burden of all that geometry to work with. Okay, and that's kind of what I covered in that previous video. So again, what you do is you need to essentially divide this guy a few times to give it enough polygons to accept that detail. Okay, so I'm going to hit Control D and Control D. Okay, I'll look at this a little bit, and now I have about 500,000 points here. Okay, which is what I want. It doesn't look any different really because all it's doing is subdividing those existing polys. Okay, so you're not going to see a whole lot of here. I think if I turn this off and on again, you'll see it. Yeah. Okay, so you can just see where it just breaks these down again over and over to get the geometry there. Okay, to handle that. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off for a sec so we can see. See, it's still kind of soft. It looks like it was dipped in wax or something, which is a result of the retopologizing. Okay, so then I want to turn this guy back on. Okay, and I'm going to go, instead of working at the highest level here, what I'm going to do is go to geometry, and I've got 3 subdivisions now. So I'm going to go down to the lowest, like that. Okay, lowest division, and I want to project the detail from that high-res Dynamesh thing onto this very low-res one. And I'm going to do that 3 times. You can jump right to the top level and try it if you want. This is a pretty predictable way, though, to get it to work really well. So you could pop this all the way up to 3 and project. I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way, which is just a little slower, more steps, but it does almost guarantee that it's going to work and look good. Okay, I'm going to go back to Subtool here, and down here there's one called Project. Okay, and you want to make sure you have these two both on, and this one is underneath this one. Okay, like so. I'm going to leave the settings as is here. I'm not going to worry about color here. Geometry, recall, yeah, it's you can leave that on. It doesn't really matter. This is the distance. That's good. I'm going to turn blur all the way off because I don't want it to start blurring the detail as it goes. Okay. And then I'm just going to click Project All, like that. And you see it works really fast that first time. Let's see what that looks like if I turn this guy off. Okay, so I got a little bit of it. You can kind of see I've got some dimples in here and a few things like that. Okay, then I'm just going to go up to the next level of my geometry here. Find that, there it is. Okay, so subdivision level 2. Okay, pop that up. Back to project here under Subtool and Project All. Second time's going to take a little longer because there's more geometry there to accept those details. Okay, so it did that. That's how that looks. Not bad. Okay, and then the third time, I'm just going to go one more time here to geometry, turn this up, and remember I can just hit D. That would do the same thing, but I'll do it so you can see what's what. Back to Subtool, Project tab down here. Again, blur is still off. I'll Project All. Like that. And this will take even longer because now it's working with over 500,000 polygons to project that detail. And again, this is so you can then create a nice displacement map, have it applied to that nice low-res geometry, the very first level of geometry, and get it to look like it's at 500,000, even though it's really going to be at 34,000 or 35,000 polys. Okay. All right, let's turn this off and see how it looks. And that looks pretty fine. You can see here, it's picked up all the little stuff in here, the little folds and stuff in the cranial area, the little cuts in the teeth, things like that. And of course you can go back in now too and sculpt this, and it's going to just look really nice because you have this nice clean geometry to work with. So you don't have to worry too much about getting funky pulls and pushes and loose hunks of polygons floating around like you get a lot with Dynamesh stuff. Okay, so this is the process. Now you can go ahead and create a displacement map with this, and it would use that very first level of division to create that displacement map by using the high level to project it on and create the map. Okay, this also gives you then a really nice thing to work and to make UVs from, because you would be making those at the very lowest level of your stuff right here. So really easy to work with because you don't have all that higher level stuff to throw around. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful. This is again kind of an advanced topic, but it gets confusing with knowing, you know, when do I stop Dynameshing? How can I make it look good? This is the process you go through. And once you do it a few times, it gets really predictable because it's just super easy to do. And particularly with like 3D scans and stuff like that, man, you can take this stuff and turn it into really nice geometry that you can then start adding things onto. And I could take this skull and start putting bolts and, you know, wires and other things onto it, make it just something more fun. All right, so there you go. Next one.